Hey you guys, welcome back to my channel. In this video, I'm going to give you the full version of the 3 pathways, just like I promised. This will help you find new builders and solve a lot of the problems in your business that come from miscommunication or unmet expectations. So if you want a seriously crazy, powerful tool to help you with that, then keep watching and subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. I am Teresa, and in this video, I'm going to teach you something that will revolutionize your business if you will do it correctly. It's called the 3 pathways, and because this is the full version, I'm including what to do, how to do it, why you're doing it, and all the nuances in between. And I'm giving you all of that because of the implications for your team. If you will learn to do this correctly, you will cut the problems that come up for you by 80% or more. So this video is gonna be more than an hour training. The actual 3 pathways only takes about 5 to 7 minutes to do with them when you're sitting with them. But in this training, by the time we're done, I want you to be able to completely understand exactly what you're doing, why each of the pieces are so important, because when I don't teach it like this, people will leave things out because they think it's not important, or they'll change some of the wording because they don't realize how much it matters. It will include everything I taught you in the simplified version, but I've added in a ton more information. But that's also why it's in the bonus section. And I'm also including in the bonus section a video that is me just role-playing the 3 pathways for you so you can see what it looks like when you actually do it. And that one will be nice because it'll be short. Please know that you don't have to know all of this to start with. Go watch the simplified version of this and just do it. And as you practice it, you'll get better and better. You'll seriously be awesome at it. But don't let this overwhelm you, because this is from lots and lots of experience. And when you do this with someone, just pick a few things out at a time. Get really good at those. Then come back, watch it again. Add a few more pieces, just a little at a time. The thing that worries me the most is that if I give you this full version, it stops you from doing anything. Then that's not even worth it to me, because I don't want you to feel that way. When you first learn how to do this, you'll think, oh, this is great. This is a great way to transition oil users to business builders. And you'll think that's basically all it really does. But it is so much more than that. Let me give you one example, and I've seen it many times. So you and your best friend decide you're gonna build doTERRA together. It is going to be so fun. You have been friends for years, you both love the oils, and you are excited. Your best friend is Jackie, and you and Jackie are both really serious about building this business together. Jackie already enrolled, so you guys agree together that you'll be one of her frontline leaders, and you both start having classes. And most of the time you do the classes together because it's more fun that way. And you're enrolling people, you're going to trainings together, and you're getting better together. Now you have little kids at home, and you had promised yourself right from the beginning that you were not going to sacrifice your family for this. So as things start to get growing in your business, there are more and more demands, and you start having to be more and more careful making decisions about how you're going to balance it all. You stop going to some of the trainings because you feel like it's taking too much time away from your family, and you decide that you will only have 1 class a week. You're still serious about your business. You feel like 4 classes a month is a lot, and you still want to grow fast, but you are going to take it at the speed that feels good for you. Now, Jackie has little kids at home too, but her perspective is different. She wants to hit diamond and walk for convention. And she feels like she can do that and still make sure she spends enough time with her family. So she sets up lots of classes, and she's really busy, and she is pushing to achieve her goals with her business. And in order for her to hit rank, guess what? She needs you to be silver. Jackie is moving up in rank, she passes you, and she is on a roll. And now when you talk, it's always about doTERRA and what should be getting done. She always wants to talk about your team, and you don't feel like she even asks about your life anymore. After a while, you can start to sense her irritation with you. She keeps trying to get you to do more, but you're trying to politely resist because you're trying to hold your ground. The tone of her calls doesn't get any better, so you start avoiding them a little bit. And you and Jackie aren't hanging out as friends anymore. And when you see each other, it's a little bit awkward, and you find that you really don't even enjoy being around Jackie anymore. And then Jackie's calls start to turn into, hey, we really need you to help with this event. I know you're not really into it so much, but we need help, and it feels condescending to you. And you can feel the implications, and you start to resent Jackie. You tell yourself, wow, she's not really who I thought she was. And that's not the kind of person I really want to be friends with anyway. But you don't really tell Jackie what you're thinking. In fact, you haven't been telling her anything for a really long time. And then one day, Jackie calls and does the most offensive thing of all. Jackie asks you to sell your business to someone who will really build. You guys, this happens, and it's really sad. Do you know how many partnerships I have helped through this kind of situation? And I'll tell you right now, I am tough on them. I don't let them make excuses, because guess what? There's fault on both sides, and we can fix it, and we do. But do you know what the real problem really was? Unmet expectations. There was no communication to help them establish what those expectations were. They both meant what they said. They both wanted to build. They both wanted to build fast. But what does fast mean? And what does build mean? Actually, those words mean different things to different people. The 3 pathways stops these kinds of things from ever happening in the first place. I am going to give you a list of 9 things that the 3 pathways will solve for you. And this list of 9 includes most of the top asked questions that leaders get frustrated about and feel like they need help with as they build their business. Imagine what you could do with your business if you had something that would give you solutions for all of these 9 things. Number 1, what do I do about a leader who doesn't do what they say they're going to do? Number 2, what do I do about a leader who's avoiding my phone calls and I'm not sure why? Number 3, how do I figure out how to motivate my leaders? Number 4, what do I do about a leader who feels like I'm pressuring them? Number 5, how can I be a better leader to my team? Number 6, what do I do about a leader who's a problem child on our team? Number 7, what do I do about a leader who's upset with me because they say I'm not being supportive enough and I've been doing everything I can think of? Number 8, I'm the only one on my team who is enrolling anyone. I don't have any help. And number 9, how can I find more builders for my business? The 3 pathways solves all of these. If you have been trying it and it isn't solving them, you need to learn to do it correctly. And I know that is strong talk. Some of you are thinking, Teresa, I thought you were nice. I'll be nice after we make sure we protect you and your business and make sure you are going to have awesome relationships with your leaders. When I am working with a builder, the 3 pathways is one of the first things I do with them and one of the first things I teach them to do. And if it really does everything I say it will, you can see why I do. But not only that, in later videos when I teach you about how to place people on your team, it's a training I do that's called Power Placements. You will need to understand this. If you've tried something like this before and it has not worked for you, I would suggest to you that it is because all of the psychological pieces were not included, that you're missing something. So give it another shot, perfecting this as you go until you get really good at it. Whenever I teach this, I like to try to give a shout out here to my close friend and leader, Elise Shedevy, because original outline came from her. I have a background in psychology, and when she shared this with me years ago, I saw how brilliant it was and what the implications could be. So I added some psychological pieces, and we've been using it ever since then. When you do the 3 pathways with someone, you need to set aside a specific time to get together, and don't call it the 3 pathways. There are actually 4 reasons that I get really excited to show you this. The first reason is because what I'm about to show you will transition a high percentage of people who are already on your team into wanting to do the business at some level. Number 2, it is the most powerful way I have found to discover what the person you're working with really wants. And it gives you both the terminology to explain where you are. Once a leader knows what it means to be a certain kind of builder, and they told me that's what they wanted to do, if their commitment level changes for some reason, they'll come to me and say, you know what, I know I picked pathway 3, but right now with my husband's new hours and grandkids moving to town, I'm going to switch to a number 2 for a while. We're both on the same page. We both know exactly what that means. And that lets me know way more clearly what kind of support they need. which almost eliminates the problems we had with Jackie and the 9 problems we talked about. I don't have those issues anymore. Issues that come up because I didn't know what they really wanted, because we didn't understand each other's expectations. I only have issues when I'm being a really lame leader, and then I probably deserve it anyway. Number 3, I use the 3 pathways to discover how serious of a builder someone really wants to be. I need to know if they're a C or a CC or neither. If they want to be a number 1, number 2, or a number 3 type of builder, if you don't know what a CC is, you need to watch my placements training, because you need to understand that. It stands for committed and capable, but the definition is not at all what you think. So go watch that training and make sure you understand that. Number 4, it naturally turns more people into CCs. People who only would have been 1C. This lays out the options so they can see it clearly and not only make an educated decision, but before they ever even decide what kind of builder they want to be, it lets them see what that would entail, what would be expected. So when they decide and they tell you they want to build, they're choosing the list of things they are committing to. So you don't have to then say, okay, if you want to build like that, then you need to set up an LRP and you'll need to set up classes. You need to do this, you need to do that, and a whole list of other requirements. When you do the 3 pathways, they often self-select up to the higher commitment level because they know what it entails. You guys, it is so, so cool. There are 4 parts to the 3 pathways, and it only takes 5 to 7 minutes to actually do this with them. So I know what you're thinking. Oh my goodness, Teresa, then why on earth is this an hour long? Well, it's because of the psychology. You need to know how to present it in a way that gets you the results I'm promising. Part 1 is pathway number 1. Part 2 is pathway number 2. Part 3 is pathway number 3. And part 4 is helping them pick a kit if they're not already enrolled. And once you see what is involved in doing the 3 pathways, then you'll be able to decide when you feel comfortable setting up a time to get together with someone. For me, it's become so natural, I can do this with just about anybody and almost without thinking about it. When you are talking to people and wanting to set up the 3 pathways with them, don't ever call it the 3 pathways to them. We just call it that in our training so that everybody knows what we're talking about. There are 3 times that I do this with someone. 1 is when they've joined doTERRA and they want to do the business. I recommend you always do this with every new builder. I do the 3 pathways with them to find out exactly what kind of builder they want to be, because they could say to me, oh my goodness, I totally want to go gung-ho with this. I really want to build. And to me, that means they're really going to put their heart into this. They want to build full time, but to them, it means they totally want to have a class every couple of months. What do you think our relationship is going to be like if I try to be the kind of supportive leader who's helping them build the way I think they want to build? Hot mess. And it won't be long before they're avoiding my phone calls, telling everyone I'm so pushy. This will help me find out for real, so I can be the kind of supportive upline that they actually need. It also helps me decide better how to place someone. The second situation where I'll use this is when someone shows even a tiny bit of interest in the business or in helping somebody or helping people with the oils. Even if they act like they just want to share it with some of their friends or they want to help someone with the oils, that is all the interest they have to show. They haven't said they want to do the business, right? But I can invite them to do this with me in a very comfortable way, and in fact, in a way that makes them feel like, oh, really? You'll take the time for that for me? And third, I'll do this with those hidden gems on my team that we didn't even know were interested in sharing or building. And I promised you I'd teach you how to find out who those are. I'm going to tell you right now. And the reason I'm telling you now, before I teach the 3 pathways, is because if you understand this, then as you listen to me teach how to do the 3 pathways correctly, you'll have this in the back of your mind. You can start planning on how you want to implement. One of the strategies we use when we're trying to help people hit rank fast is we set a goal to do wellness consults with every single person on their existing team in 1 month. We work with all the builders on the team, we set up calling trees, we split up the wellness consult so nobody has too crazy of a number, and we try to make sure we have a wellness consult with every single person on that team. We have scripts for how to invite people to the wellness consult, exactly what to say, and by the time the month is over, we have seen teams almost double their volume, even huge teams. It is awesome. Well, during your wellness consult, you often will have a little conversation that leads to setting up a time when you can get together to do the 3 pathways. Don't do it at the wellness consult. It will ruin it. As you listen to the approach I will teach you, I want you to realize that this conversation I'm going to show you, you can have it at the end of the class, but you can also have this conversation sometime during the wellness consult, usually nearer the end. The wellness consults are the key to you finding those hidden people in your team who will want to build. So here's a situation where I'll end up planning to get together with someone to do the 3 pathways with them. I've just been talking to Barbara after a class. She's sounding like she just wants to be a customer. But she says to me, are there oils that will help with anxious feelings? I say, yes, there are some oils I love for that. She says, because my friend really is struggling with that and I'm feeling really bad for her. I talk with her about her friend for a minute and I'll guide the conversation just a little bit so that she knows that as we help her friend, I'm going to make sure her friend goes under Barbara because Barbara is the one who's helping her. After a little bit of this, I'm going to cut the conversation short because I've got to go help other people too. And I say, okay, you know what we need to do? Let's set up a time where we can finish figuring this out. We'll sit down together. Now, I don't want to say, let's set up a meeting because that doesn't sound very exciting. And a lot of people don't want to do a meeting. I'll say, let's set up a time that we can get together. We'll take some time to figure this out. I have some questions I'll want to ask you. I'll kind of go over a few things with you and find out exactly what you're thinking, and we'll figure out the best way we can help your friend. Notice how I am trying to keep it laid back. No pressure. I don't want it to sound like I'm trying to get them to build because I'm really not. I have just had enough experience to recognize when someone may have a little interest in the business, but they don't know how to say it, or they're worried if they say so that I'll pounce on that and they'll feel pressured. And I also know how many people I have seen be able to follow their dreams because of doTERRA. And if I can see that in them, I'm going to try to create a situation where they know there's an option. I have just as much of a powerful testimony of the business and how it changes people's lives as I do about the oils and what I've seen them do for people. Just remember that everything we do in this entire 3 pathways is all about helping them feel comfortable and safe to figure out what they really want to do. You know how when you're done teaching people about the oils, everybody wants them? And then in How to Close, I taught you it's all about helping them feel safe and giving them knowledge that they can make an educated decision for themselves. The 3 pathways does the same thing for possible builders. I don't want to use my charms and get them all excited about it and get them to do what they think I want. I want to find out what they really want. When I get to their house, we'll just chat a little bit, care about them and their life. When we sit down and we're ready to get started, I've got a paper and a pen, as well as any other info or handouts that I think that she might like. I'll say, okay, so what I want to do is figure out how we can help your friend. So we talk about that for a little bit. Then we'll get to a place where I'll say, and since you're sharing it with her, I just want to show you a couple of things and ask you a few questions. They say, okay. I say, in my experience as I work with different people who want to share the oils or build the business, what I have found is that people choose to go down one of 3 pathways. So I'm going to show you what those are, and then you can tell me where you think you fit in those categories. Already, I am trying to help them feel like I could care less what they choose. Not because I don't care, but because this is their thing, not mine. Did you notice how I used the words share and build? I said, in my experience, someone who wants to share the oils or build the business. When I say the word share, it's on purpose because I don't want them to feel like I'm assuming they are a builder. If I had said, in my experience, people who want to build the business, and they're going, I never said I wanted to build the business. Why are you putting that on me? Then I use the word build. That is also on purpose because it helps them realize there is a real opportunity here and the door is wide open. And if they had talked to me more about the business before our get together, then they're already thinking, yeah, that's me. Then I'm looking at them while I say, okay, so the first pathway is someone who just wants to be able to pay for their oils. They may just want to be able to pay for their habit. They just want to get their oils for free. And then I'm going to stop talking. I'm going to write it down on the paper. While you're writing on the paper, just be silent. There are a few times I'm going to be telling you to be silent, and it is very important. Some people are afraid of that silence. They feel like they have to keep talking. They talk, so it won't feel awkward. If you do that, you will ruin it, because during the silence, some very important things are happening in their mind. They're thinking things through, they're having emotions, they're analyzing those thoughts and emotions, and you need to let them have that time. Don't take that away from them. You're going to leave this paper with them when you leave. So when you're writing things down on the paper as you go, you want to make sure that everything you write is as simple as possible. Because if you don't keep it simple, then by the time you're done, it's going to feel complicated and they won't be interested. We don't want them looking at the paper at the end and going, oh my goodness, this is overwhelming. So abbreviate words that you can, write as few words as you can, but don't abbreviate words that are not super common abbreviations, because later when they look at it, they'll forget what it meant. As I go, I'll show you exactly what I write down on the paper. So I just said to them, this is someone who just wants to get their oils for free. What do you think they're thinking right now? Well, I want to get my oils for free. They're already putting themselves into one of these categories. And if I'm doing this with a business builder, what do you think they're thinking? Okay, yeah, but that's not me. I want to build. So what I write on the paper is, number 1, pay for oils. Next, there are a couple more words I'm going to use that I want you to pay close attention to. It's the word someone and the word usually. And notice how whenever I talk about pathway number 1, I will always use the word share. Now I say, so someone who wants to share the oils like this is usually someone who just wants to casually share the oils with their friends or their family. Now on the paper, underneath pay for oils, I'm going to write casually share. And again, silence every time I'm writing something down. The reason I say someone instead of the word you, someone who wants to share the oils like this, is usually someone who, listen to what it sounds like if I say you. If you want to share the oils like this, you would be doing this. All of a sudden, it's pressure. The focus is on them, and that's not what we want. And when I use the word usually, that also takes off pressure, because it feels like, well, it doesn't always have to be done this way. Listen again. So someone who wants to share the oils like this is usually someone who just wants to casually share with their friends or their family. Do you see how just adding the word usually allows them to relax and just think about what I'm saying? And then I say, and someone who's sharing like this, what's going to happen is over a period of several months, they're going to get to a point where they're paying for their oils. They're getting their oils for free. Then I'll write on the paper several months. Notice how I'm abbreviating the word months to MOS. Now, for example, in Australia, you don't have the same abbreviations, so use the ones that are normal for you. That's the end of pathway number 1. The second pathway is someone who wants to supplement their income. On the paper, I'll leave a couple of spaces blank underneath number 1, because if we leave spaces between each of the pathways as we write it on the paper, it will look much more simple when we're done. Notice how I use the word build every time I talk about pathway number 2 or pathway number 3. I'm going to use the word build because it helps them to feel like this is a little more serious, and that's what I want them to feel. If they choose to build, they need to know that they are actually committing to something. On the paper, after the 2 blank spaces, I'm going to write the number 2, supplement income. Now again, I want you to notice how I'll say someone and usually again. I say someone who wants to build like this is usually someone who wants to make anywhere between about $1,000 to $4,000 a month. On the paper, I'm going to write 1K dash 4K and then / MO for month. Notice how I didn't say this is someone who only wants to make $1,000 to $4,000 a month, because that's a lot of money. Just because you know you're going to talk about bigger numbers with pathway number 3, do not lose sight of what this is like for most people. And it can feel offensive if you act like that's not very much. They might be thinking, well, yikes, gee whiz, what do they think of me then? Notice that anytime something you say doesn't feel comfortable for them, they'll get distracted and you'll lose them. You've lost their focus on this, their mind starts going somewhere else. So I've just said this is usually someone who wants to make about $1,000 to $4,000 a month. Next, I say someone who wants to build like this would need to commit to at least 3 to 4 hours per week. And they can do more too. On the paper, I'll write 3-4 HRS, abbreviated for hours, /WK for week. Then I say, and over time, they're going to get to a point where they are making that income. The reason I'm not writing down a specific amount of time is because how quickly they get to that income will totally depend on how many hours they spend doing their business each week. We're finished with the second pathway. Now for the third pathway. I say the third pathway is someone who wants to replace their income. Now leave a few blank lines under number 2 and then write the number 3 and replace income. If it has started to feel like I'm just lecturing, then I'll throw in a few more sentences here. This might be someone who can't wait to get out of their job, or maybe they like their job, but they just want to pick and choose when they want to do it. Notice how I'm saying they and them. I'm still not saying the word you. A lot of times they'll say something like, yeah, that's me. Or they'll say, oh, I would love that. Do you see how they start putting themselves into a category because that's what they would want? They're comfortable thinking it through and doing that because of those moments of silence. And because you're not acting like you care what they think either way. You're just kind of telling them what you've seen in your experience. But it also gives me a feel for what they're thinking. Now, don't forget to make this fun. Put inflections in your voice, even though you may have done this 100 times. For them, this is the first time. And I also don't want to get more excited about this pathway than I did about the others. Because if I do, they'll feel like I'm just trying to talk them into the big one. They'll feel like I just want them to do pathway number 3. And you know what? When I have a builder who is just trying to do what they think I want, it becomes miserable. I don't want that. I really want to know what they want. That's when doTERRA becomes fun. So next I say, so someone who wants to replace their income, this is usually someone who wants to make anywhere between $5, $10, $20, $50, $100,000 a month. Notice, I am not going to say it like this. This is usually someone who wants to make anywhere between $5, $10, $20, $50, $100,000 a month. I do not want to hype up the money. I have a lot of people on my team who are making that kind of money, but I don't like to hype it like that. Do you know that psychologically, it's actually more natural for you to have more excitement in your voice the higher the number? But I purposely do it the exact opposite. I make sure the tone of my voice goes down as the numbers go up. So listen to how it sounds again. This is usually someone who wants to make anywhere between $5, $10, $20, $50, $100,000 a month. This is the only thing that you will change what you write on the paper depending on who you're talking to. Write 5K dash, but for the second number, you need to be thoughtful of the person you're talking to. If I'm talking with someone who probably makes a couple $100,000 a year, as my second number for income, I am going to write 50K per month. I never write 100,000 because it can come across as pretentious. Well, unless I'm working with huge builders, but then we're doing this differently anyway. But if I am talking with someone who is struggling to make ends meet, I am going to write 10K as my second number. Never write less than 10, even if you're nervous to do it. They need to know there's a real option for serious income. If you put less than 10K in that spot, this is what you are doing. You are taking away the feeling that, wow, okay, this is serious and it is going to take some commitment. So if you change this and then you wonder why your leaders aren't acting committed, it's on you. But be careful because you're just guessing about their income. So always go high if you're not sure. Next, I say, so someone who wants to build like this would need to plan on committing to 20 plus hours a week. And I say it laid back. If I say this too passionately, it sounds way too demanding. I'll write on the paper 20, then the plus sign, and HRS /WK for hours per week. On the third pathway, I'm not going to put an amount of time because it's not really necessary here and we're trying to keep it simple. Plus, they probably wouldn't believe how quickly they can make that income if they really follow our training. At this point, you're only about 3 minutes into the conversation. And now I'll say, so now I'm going to show you what some of the criteria would be for a number 3 builder so that you get an idea what that looks like. A lot of times when I get to this part, someone will say, well, what about number 2? What's required for a number 2? And I love when they ask me that, because what are they thinking? They're thinking they want to be a number 2, which would be awesome. I want to answer them, and I don't want them to feel like I'm avoiding the question, but I also don't want to write the list down twice on the paper, because then the paper will look overwhelming. So I say, I'll show you what that looks like. It's similar to the number 3, so I'll write these down for number 3, then I'll go through it and show you the differences so that you'll be able to see. They say, okay. And even if they said they want to do pathway number 1, if you're laid back and comfortable about it, everyone is always a little curious to see what the other 2 look like. Plus, people like to feel like they have a choice, so they like to see the other options. But you can see why it's also really important that this is very short for them. Then it won't feel like you trick them into a presentation. It doesn't feel like a presentation when you're done. It just feels like you showed them a few things. So I've just said, let me show you what that criteria would look like so you can get an idea of what that entails. And notice that I'm still saying they, not you, and I'm not going to look hard into their eyes when I say this, or it will feel like way too much pressure. The first thing is they would need to plan on doing a 150-point loyalty rewards order every month by the 10th of the month. Can you imagine what it would feel like if I looked strongly into their eyes when I say this? The first thing they would need to plan on doing a 150-point loyalty rewards order every month by the 10th of the month. So don't be looking in their eyes. That's not cool. You're kind of looking at the paper or you're about to write it down. On the paper, I write a dash and then I write 150 PV /MO for month. Then I write by the 10th of the month. Have you noticed that as I'm doing the 3 pathways with them, I'm not really explaining anything. I just tell them, I write it down and go on to the next thing on the list. But for this one, 150 points a month, I am going to explain it. And the reason I do is because I didn't used to. I found that people would come back to me later and say, hey, I just found out that doTERRA says you can do 100 points a month and still get paid. Why did you tell me I have to do 150? I don't ever want someone to wonder even for a second if I had been dishonest with them. And maybe we even taught that to them in my class. So we think they should know, but people can't always remember everything. And sometimes maybe we didn't go over it. So I explain it like this. And notice how I switch to the word you, and I do that on purpose. I say the word you a few times here. So this is what I say. Now, doTERRA only requires that you do 100 points a month in order to get your paycheck. But I require my builders to do 150 because I understand the compensation plan inside and out. And there are serious bonuses you would miss out on if you are not on 150 points. And I will not let that happen to you. And then sometimes I'll say, I have had people on my team miss out on a $1,500 bonus because they were $25 short somewhere. And I just won't let that happen. Do you think they are going to feel like I will take care of them and that I want to help and protect them? Yes. And guess what? That's exactly how I do feel. For you viewers, the reason I say by the 10th of the month is because in order for them to take advantage of the free oil of the month and any discounts, all the benefits they can get, they have to have their order set up by the 15th of the month, right? And we have found that the 15th is too late because if there's a problem with their credit card or somehow there was some mistake somewhere, then they will miss out on those specials. If they have it set by the 10th, then that gives them that 5-day window to catch any problems. And we don't want them doing it earlier than the 10th. We've had people so excited to just be organized. They want to set up their order on the 1st of the month and just be on top of it. But can I tell you how many phone calls we would get because customers or builders were all frustrated because they had made their LRP order but didn't realize that the product of the month was clove and they could have gotten 10% off. So now they've got to return the product so they can reorder, or they have to order more. It's a mess. Also, sometimes we don't hear from doTERRA about a special until after the first day, or sometimes it's been a few days into the month. So even the 5th was too early. If it's on the 10th, we give ourselves time on both ends. Plus, if there's any problem with the Power of 3 bonus, how long does that give us to resolve it? 18 days, more than half the month. There are reasons behind everything we do. Now, I've just told them 20 plus hours a week and 150 PB. Those are difficult things. So when I say those, I am not going to sound all passionate. Listen to what it would sound like if I did. They have got to do 20 hours a week. That sounds awful. So the difficult ones, I say them more laid back, but when I get to the easy ones, I say them all passionate. Because if you don't say any of them passionately, it doesn't sound like they have to make a commitment at all. It sounds like none of it is any big deal, and this is a serious business builder, so they need to know it's serious. So listen to how this sounds. I've just said 2 difficult commitments in a row. So now I need to say one that's easier so it doesn't start to feel too overwhelming. I say, they have got to have a book. I write on the paper, -book. And a lot of times the person is saying out loud without really even thinking, they say, oh yeah, I've already got that. I love it when they say that, because guess what they're thinking? They want to be a number 3, but they're trying to figure out if it might work for them, and usually they want to hear the rest of it first. Next, I'm going to say 2 that are more difficult, so I'm going to be more laid back again. I say, this kind of builder would also need to plan on committing to find 3 business builders. I write on the paper underneath, the last one, a dash, and then 3 builders. Then I say they would need to plan on committing to making 2 or more new contacts a day. I write down a dash and then say at least 2 contacts / day. So 2 contacts per day. Now it's time to say an easy one. So I'm going to be passionate. I say they've got to have written goals. Do you notice how, because some of what I say is passionate, it sounds like a serious commitment? I write down - goals, and now it's time to trail my voice off a little so it feels comfortable for them. I say, and then of course they'd need to be involved in events and trainings. I write down a - events and trainings. Then I say, and then they would need to attend the convention every year. I put a - and write convention. If earlier they had asked about the number 2 criteria, you better make sure you remember to add that now, or it will feel like you're really just trying to talk them into doing a number 3. So I'll say, so you were asking about the number 2 criteria, and let me show you what that looks like. And now I'll go down that list of criteria that I wrote, all the dashes. I'll do it one at a time and show them what it looks like for a number 2. As I go down the list, I'll point at each one of those dash marks we made, and notice I'm back to saying they instead of you. This is what I'll say. For a number 2, they would need to commit to a 100-point LRP every month instead of 150. And as I say that, I'll write the number 100 kind of small next to the dash by where I wrote 150. Then I move on quickly down the list. I say they would still need to have a book. They would still need to find 3 builders. It would just take them a little bit longer. They would need to commit to 1 contact a day instead of 2. And right here, I'll write down the number 1 next to the dash by 2 contacts a day. And then I'll continue on. And as I look at the list, I'll say they would need to have written goals, they'd still be involved in events and trainings, just not as much, and then they should really try to come to convention if they can. Now I'm done, and I push the paper I've been writing on over in front of them. And I say, so those are the 3 pathways, and now all I need is for you to tell me where you fit in those categories. They'll start looking at the paper. And get ready, because I need to get a little harsh with you here for a minute. I am going to use a word that isn't even allowed in our home. So as they're looking at the paper, this is where you shut up. I used to tell people to be silent because I'm trying to be nice, but I've learned that people don't take it seriously unless I say shut up. The person you're with, they will look at that paper sometimes for a super long time, but you be silent. Let them look. At this point, anything you say will feel like you are trying to talk them into something or out of something. Even if you realize you forgot to say something that you think was really important, too late. You cannot say anything else, anything. The only thing you can do now is if they ask you a question, you can answer it, but be quick. And then what? Don't say another word, shut up again. During this time while they're looking at the paper and thinking about what they want to do, there are a few questions that you will hear. I'll teach you how to handle those most frequently asked questions, and they're not always couched as a question, but ultimately they're saying it because they have a question. So I'll phrase it here the way they usually do. The first one I get a lot is, well, I'd love to do number 3, but I have 2 jobs and 20 hours is just too much for me. I wouldn't be able to do that. If they want to do number 3, but don't know if they can do a full 20 hours a week, dude, I will take a builder like that any day. Remember, they are saying that after they've already seen the list of requirements. So I say to them, you know what? If you're serious about doing number 3, and then I'll kind of circle an invisible circle around the list of requirements with my finger. And I say, if you're willing to commit to this, we'll figure it out. We'll go through your calendar together and figure out what works for you, and we will work around it. Okay, side note for you, just because you get this question a lot, do not change the number of hours to less than 20 as you are doing the 3 pathways, because writing down the 20 is part of what helps them feel like if they pick number 3, they are committing to something more serious. If you take that away from them, you're just making it feel like a number 2. And when you're done, you still don't really know how committed they want to be. You ended up with a number 2 builder who said they wanted to be a number 3 because of the way you made it sound. And then you wonder why this leader who picked number 3 is not being a number 3. So it's more important to take the time with their question afterward and help them figure out the 15 or 10 hours that they can do. And that will be just great. But I'll guarantee you, if you've talked about doing 10 hours in their schedule, they will feel like it is important that they get their 10 hours in. And why does this matter to me? They can do whatever they want. It's because if they choose number 3, I'm going to be doing some things to see if they're committed and capable, and I'll be looking to put them in my key positions. And I don't want to do that unless they're serious. I don't want to have those expectations for them if that's not what they want. I want to have those expectations for someone who wants that for themselves. So I have a right to get an honest answer about what they're really willing to do. The second comment I get a lot is, well, $150 a month is a lot. I don't think I could do that. If they are saying that, again, it's because they want to do number 3. I'll say, if you're interested in doing number 3 and that would be too hard for you, we'll figure that out together. We can set it up so you just do the 100 points a month so you can get paid. And then as you're making more in doTERRA, we'll move it up to 150. I'll help you watch your bonuses so you don't miss out on any of those. And if you need to bump it up for a bonus, we'll do that. Side note for you, anyone who's building the way we teach a number 3 to build is going to be making enough money to cover that 150 point LRP. If they sell 4 200 point kits, that's $160. There is actually something we can do if they don't reach their goals. I hesitate to teach you this because I don't want you to use this as an excuse for not reaching the goal. There is no reason someone cannot pay for their oils in 30 days of doing the business as a number 3. But I'm going to teach it to you because I promised you that this was the full version. Don't tell them this is an option because then you're giving them an out so they don't feel like they need to try as hard. So save this just in case you need it. Remember, they want this. Your job is to help them succeed. Let's say something happens and they do fall short of the $150 they need to earn to cover the cost of their LRP. And they had been worried about money. I certainly don't want them to be in a bind if they really can't afford that. And I am not going to pay for it because that is not wise business and it's not wise psychology. I'll wait until it's just about a week before the LRP order is supposed to process. And you know we're working the whole time to make it happen. I know they're starting to get worried, so I'll tell them, you know, we don't have enough yet to cover the cost of your LRP. They say, yeah, I'm getting worried about it. I say, okay, here's what we're going to do. We are going to do everything we can think of this week. We are pulling out all the stops, and we are going to get you those enrollments. And when we do, I am taking you out on Friday, and we are going to celebrate. That's all I say for now, because I know we'll do it. And I know the only way it won't work is if they're not doing what they said they would do. But I can, at the last minute, show them how to cancel their LRP a few days before it's supposed to run. Now, if we do that, make sure they understand they won't receive any commissions of the people who did enroll. And just a side note, if they already got paid for people they enrolled because those enrollments went through the previous month, then just know there will be a clawback. What that means is that doTERRA will take those commissions that were paid because the LRP was set up, and they'll take that commission out of the next month's paycheck or whenever another paycheck is available. And let me add that I have never had to use this option except in the case of the death of a family or something that serious. The third question I hear a lot is, could I start at number 2 and then transition into number 3? One time I was teaching this and I asked the audience, can they do that if they want to? It wasn't supposed to be a trick question, but somebody said no. And I started laughing because it shocked me. I said, yes, they can. They can do whatever they want. So now I don't ask that question because I don't want anyone feeling silly if they get it wrong. And the fourth thing I hear a lot is, you're supposed to do 2 contacts a day, but what if I run out of people? I love that because what are they thinking? They want to do number 3 or number 2. They're just not sure if they'll be able to fulfill the commitments. So I say, I totally know how to find plenty of people. So I can help you with that. If you want to commit to this, and I point to the criteria for a number 3 or whatever they were choosing, then we'll work with your contacts first. And then if we run out, I'll totally help you. But it's not a problem at all for us to have enough people. Notice how I'm saying we now. We'll work with your contacts. We'll figure it out. I'm letting them know that if you do this, we are in this together. And P.S., did you know that the average person, if they just sat down and made a list of all their contacts, the average person has 300. That's what they would come up with if they sat down for a short period of time and just wrote down everyone they could think of. And I know a secret. By the time we do their Jumpstart Week with 4 classes, we know exactly how to get classes off of those classes. So before we're even close to sampling all of her contacts, we already have other people's networks to work with. It's not a problem. And honestly, what's the worst case scenario? If we truly ran out of people, we can reach out to massage therapists in Wyoming and we'll have more than we can handle for a really long time. And you've got midwives and doulas and social media. I'm not worried. But I need to set their mind at ease because they don't know what I know. Whatever questions or concerns they have, we can make adjustments. That's not a problem. It's just important that when they choose, they start off knowing what they're getting themselves into. After their questions are answered and you've been silent, they will tell you what they want to do. Now it's time to help them figure out what oils they want to start with if they haven't enrolled yet. If they've already enrolled, just skip part 4. And whatever pathway they pick, I will do part 4 exactly the same. For part 4, you'll need to pull out the handout you have that has pictures of the different doTERRA kits. Let's say they pick pathway number 2. Notice how I am still using the word share for pathway number 1 and the word build for pathway number 2 and 3. I'll point to pathway number 1 on our paper and I'll say, okay, so someone who wants to share like this is usually looking at kits like this. And I'll kind of make an invisible circle with my finger around the kits on the handout that are $150 to $250. Then I point to pathway number 2 on my paper and I say, for someone who wants to build like this, they're usually looking at these kits. I make an invisible circle with my finger around the kits that are in the $500 price range. Then I point to pathway number 3 and say, for someone who wants to build like this, they're usually looking at these kits. And I make an invisible circle with my finger around the kits that are $1,000 and above. Now, I know some of you are freaking out right now. You are thinking, I don't want to make them feel like they have to buy a certain kit. Hold up a second and just trust me for a minute. You guys know I care way more about them than I care about everything else. I needed to say it that way because psychologically, it is very important for them to feel like they need to treat this like a serious business if they're choosing number 3. Can you imagine what kind of a builder I will have on my hands if I act the whole time like there's nothing serious about it? It doesn't really matter what they do. It doesn't matter what kit they get. Nothing matters. Do you want a builder or not? I might as well not even do the 3 pathways if I'm going to do it like that because I'll end up not even knowing what they really want. And the point of this whole thing is to find out what they really want so that I can help them. But I also don't want them to feel bad if they can't afford a bigger kit. I'll wait for their response and just relax in the silence, let them decide. They'll either pick a kit or they'll say something about how they aren't able to get the kit that goes with the pathway number they chose. If they pick the kit they want, to say, okay, perfect, and help them get enrolled. But if they said anything that implies they can't afford the kit that goes with the number they chose, the next thing I say to them is very important so that they feel totally fine picking whatever kit they want. I look in their eyes and I say very sincerely, you get whatever kit you feel comfortable with. And I never recommend that anyone go into debt to start this business. Here, when I look in their eyes, it feels comforting. They know I want them to do what's best for them, and that's what I want them to feel. After I've said that, every single person I have ever worked with feels completely comfortable to look at the kits, pick whatever they feel good about, and after they tell me which one they pick, guess what I say? Perfect. Before I go, we're going to work together to have them pick a week for their Jumpstart Week. It needs to be 2 to 3 weeks from the day they enrolled. We'll proceed to coordinate the next time we'll get together to start planning for business building. Do you get what just happened? They picked number 2 and they've committed to the items on the list. They're saying they want to build, and I've created a situation where I don't have to now say, okay, then you'll need to set up your LRP, you have to get the book, you have to start doing contact. I don't have to commit them to anything because they already chose those commitments. They know what they're getting into and they're making an educated decision. You will be surprised at how many people will want to build. But don't be trying to do this with people that you shouldn't. When you start into this with them, they should not be thinking, why are you even talking to me about this? This is so irrelevant. I haven't even said anything to you. If you start the 3 pathways with someone, then you realize it was a mistake, don't finish it. Quickly transition it into talking about how to use their oils or help their family members with the oils or whatever it is you had talked with them about before. Don't just go, well, I started it, so I guess I have to finish. This is one of those times when quitting is okay. For this whole thing, don't let it go longer than about a half hour. If you do, it gets too long. It starts to feel overwhelming, and by the time you leave, they're going, ugh, you know what, never mind, I don't think I'm ready for this right now. Even if they were super excited about the business and they want to keep talking about it, I promise you, you will lose builders if you stay too long. Let them know you have to go, but be excited with them to schedule your next get together. If they want to start making plans, say, okay, this is what I want you to do. And then give them a few assignments. I want you to write your goals. I want you to think about this or that. I want you to make sure you have your book by the next time we meet. I want you to get on builddoterra.com and start watching a few of those videos. That kind of thing. Whatever it is, give them a few assignments so they're excited and they have their next steps, and then say, let's set up a time that we can meet. Because guess what? If they're going to be your builder, you need to start meeting with them anyway, so you're going to set up another time to talk about all that other stuff. And by the way, the most important thing they can do once they have enrolled is learn how to sample correctly. So that would be an awesome first assignment for them to go watch that video. And remember from my other trainings that when you give them assignments, you're testing them. You're kind of checking to see if they're going to do what they say they're going to do. And that helps you determine if they're a CC, a C, or neither. You guys, every single time I do this with someone, they always choose one of the pathways. And it's almost always number 2 or 3. And do you know why that is? It's because most people actually really would love to do something like this, or they'd like to make more money, but they don't know what that would entail, or they're afraid they won't be good at it, or they won't know what they're supposed to do. But by the time I'm done with the 3 pathways, they can tell that I know what we need to do. I know that they know what it would look like if they get involved. They know what they want, but now they can make an educated decision. Here's a bonus tip. You know the 3 pathways that you wrote on the paper for them. Don't type it up ahead of time. If you do that, you will ruin it. There is something very important that happens when you say things to them, and then there's that silence while you write it on the paper. Another reason is because if it's typed up and you set that in front of them, it now feels like you came prepared with a presentation, and they will feel like you tricked them. Come in, be laid back, and take 5 to 7 minutes to tell them. We did a Diamond University training in Oregon where I trained the group how to do this, and I had somebody there who was really excited to start doing it. I saw her months later at convention, and she came to find me and said, I took you at your word. I decided I was just going to do this exactly like you teach. And she said, you cannot believe what happened to my team. I'm telling you guys, it's crazy. It will bring builders out of the woodwork. I'm not kidding you. When people say, I can't find builders, this is one of the first things I teach them how to do. When I teach this, there are a few frequently asked questions from the viewers, so I'll answer them here. First question, do I need to do this one-on-one, or can I do it in a group? This absolutely needs to be done one-on-one. Even if I have 2 people who are business partners, I do it separately, because if people are together, they end up playing off each other and second guessing what they think the other people are going to do or what the other person might want them to do, instead of really relaxing and just choosing for themselves. There is one exception to that rule. Let's say you just learned this and you already have an existing team. You want to do the 3 pathways with them, but if you do it one-on-one with your leaders now, it will just look like you're telling your leaders they need to be more committed. So here's what you can do. You can gather all your leaders together for a group training and tell them, you guys, I just went to this training and we learned this new way to work with new builders, and it transitions users into builders. It was awesome. Yeah, tell them it was awesome. And I want to teach it to our whole team. Then you teach the group as if you are teaching them how to do it. You're not doing this to them for them to choose a pathway. And with most of your pre-existing leaders, if you tried to sit down with them to do this with them, it could be really offensive. So in the group, throughout the whole thing, you're saying, this is what you say here, this is what you would do next, and it's really interesting what happens. You'll find that they'll start self-selecting. They'll come up to you afterward and say, oh my goodness, I think I acted too like I was going to be a number 3, and I've only been building like a number 2. Others will say, I never realized this, I guess I'm a number 2 builder, etc. It's awesome, because it opens up the communication, and we're all speaking the same language now, and people start calling themselves a 1 or a 2 or a 3, and they're proud of what they are. It starts to resolve issues that were happening between you and your leaders, because now they know what they really want to commit to, and people feel safe now to talk about it in these terms. Now, keep in mind, if you do this with your leaders as a group, you better make sure that you sound like it doesn't matter what the builder chooses, that you really want them to choose what they want. The way you present this to your group can either create safety or antagonism. So do it the way I teach. Question number 2. What if I can't do it in person? In person is definitely best, but a lot of times that just can't happen. So yes, you can do it over the phone. I do it all the time, especially when I'm running it for a new builder who can't really do it alone yet. So I'm doing it with their frontline leaders. I'll do it on a 3-way call. But if you do it over the phone, it is just as important that they end up with that paper in front of them looking exactly like the one I showed you. By the time you're done, it has to be like that. So make sure they have a paper and a pen, and then you'll need to walk them through what to write down when you get to those parts. So for example, I'll say everything exactly the same, but when I get to the part where I say pathway number 1 is someone who just wants to casually share the oils, then I'll say, now, on your paper, I'll tell you what I want you to write down as we go, and it will seem a little bit silly at first, but just trust me, and you'll see why I have you do it this way. So on the top of your paper, write a number 1, and then beside that write pay for oils. And then I'll proceed like that through the whole thing. And at the end, when I'm doing the kits with them, after they've selected their pathway, I of course have made sure they have a copy of the handout with the kits on it, and I say, someone who's looking to share the oils like pathway number 1 is usually looking at the $150 to $250 kits. Someone who wants to build like a number 2 is usually looking at the kits in the $500 price range. And then someone who wants to build like a number 3 is usually looking at the every oil kit and up. And the rest will be the same. Okay, for your action item, you've already practiced the simplified version of this, so you'll have a feel for it. Now, I just want you to add a couple of new things you learned from this full version. Perfect it a little bit, add it to what you're already doing, and then keep coming back as you need refreshers. A little at a time, because this creates massive success. Thanks so much for watching, you guys. I hope this video helped you. If it did, leave it a thumbs up. If you think this training will help somebody else, pass it on. And one thing I would love to hear in the comment section is when you find new builders using this. A lot of times I don't get to hear the end of the story, and I love it when somebody comes up to me at convention or at leadership and lets me know how it went. My other videos will be at the side if you want to check them out. I should say they'll be at the side if you want to check them out. And if you want to know when my new videos are coming out, you can subscribe. I also notify everybody on my Instagram and Facebook, and I love giving away free stuff to you guys, so come join me there and be a part of what we're doing. And before I let you go, I want you to remember, great things happen one piece at a time. When you achieve something noteworthy, it wasn't because you did something grand, one thing, big thing one time. It's because you did the little things over and over and over. The man who earns the right to perform his piano concert at Carnegie Hall didn't do one grand thing. He did the little, unnoticeable things over and over. The woman who wins the Olympic medal, she didn't do one grand thing. She did the mundane actions every day over and over. There's a Chinese proverb that says, "Be not afraid of going slowly. Be only afraid of standing still." You will reach your goal, a little at a time. You guys are awesome. Bye-bye.